My name's Tom. I'm a CFI with Pilot Institute, and today I have a student named Dayton. He's got a check ride coming up in about a week. We're going to go run through a mock check ride. I don't think we're going to have time to do all the maneuvers due to aircraft availability, but we'll see what we can get through. So you ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's go do it.
I was pretty ready for an engine failure, and then you gave me an engine fire.
Now there's flames everywhere around here.
A little aggravating, to say the least.
Right.
So when we have an engine fire, we want an emergency descent.
You have to be able to identify what kind of clouds are around you.
Trying to keep a good speed going, but at the same time, we're just dropping.
Is that a coyote on the runway?
I do not. Go around.
But the question is, does it matter?
I think my steep turn went beautifully.
Oh, your steep turn was a chef's kiss.
It was so beautiful.
It was.
Nice and easy on the brakes. We can take the next exit.
Well, we're back from the flight. We did have to cut the flight a little bit short, just based on time and the availability of the airplane. So we're just going to kind of talk about what we went over. The first thing that we did was we went through and you did the startup. How did you feel that went?
Well, I did have to do it a second time just because I added in the mixture a little too quickly. Probably because I was a little excited. Second one went perfectly and pretty okay with that startup.
Startup was pretty good. You were using the checklist, which is what I want to see. Some of the stuff you would talk out loud. It's not required that you talk out loud, but like when I'm doing an evaluation of you, it helps me to really kind of see what's going on in your head. So the more you verbalize, the better it is. You check the brakes, asked me if I want to check my brakes. We did.
Would you like to check your brakes? Sure.
Was there anything that you forgot or would want to do different?
For the startup section, no.
Before we started taxiing, there was one thing that I noticed that you missed. Do you know what that is? You did it in the run-up area, but you forgot it initially. Do you remember what that was?
Oh, it was my passenger briefing.
That's correct.
Seats. Latched. Seatbelt. Today, we're, I don't know, going on a flight. I need to give you your safety briefing. Seatbelts, yours are on the outside. They click down to the middle. Press the red button to unclip it. Your air vents, if you feel sick or just need some air, there's air vents on either side, and turn left to open them, turn them right to close them. Fire extinguisher, if there's a fire, there's a fire extinguisher in between me and Tom here. Just pull the pin, point at the base of the fire, and spray. Exits, we got 2 exits here. There's black levers, pull them up and back, and if you can't get the doors open, all the windows are kick-outable. Traffic, if you see traffic, say traffic. Don't assume that we see it. Just let us know direction and if it's going to be a problem for us. Got any questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
When you give a passenger briefing, I noticed you followed the FAA safety guideline, which is pretty good. But what's the one thing in there that's the legal requirement that you have to tell them?
I'm not entirely sure. What?
So the one thing that you're required to tell your passengers is you have to have your seatbelts on for taxi, takeoff, and landing. So that's the one thing that I noticed that you missed.
Okay.
For the use of the safety belts, this comes back to 14 CFR 91-107, and it's under the use of safety belts. So under subsection A1, it says no pilot may take off a U.S. registered civil aircraft unless the pilot in command of that aircraft ensures that each person on board is briefed on how to fasten and unfasten the person's safety belt and, if installed, a shoulder harness. So you actually did that because when we were in the run-up area, you told me and Bo how to use the safety belt. So you met that one. The one that you missed was this. No pilot may cause to be moved on the surface, takeoff, or land of a U.S. registered civil aircraft unless the pilot in command of that aircraft ensures that each person on board has been notified to fasten his or her safety belt and, if installed, his or her safety harnesses. So just remember the next time you give your safety briefing, like as soon as you get it started, right before you go to check your brakes, just give that briefing. Hey, make sure your seatbelts are fastened for taxi, takeoff, and landing. Any questions? And we'll be good.
By the way, are you feeling stressed about your upcoming check ride? Well, our free private pilot study sheet can help calm your nerves. It covers the most important topics that you need to know for your check ride in a user-friendly format. This way, you can walk in feeling prepared and not stressed. Click below to download.
All right, so then we went to picking up your clearance. The one thing that I noticed was there was an airplane that left from right next to us, and they picked up a clearance. They got runway 21 left. You said, okay, well, we can learn from their clearance, and this is what we can anticipate, and that's really good. That shows you're thinking ahead. That shows that you're planning.
Cessna 5 Foxtrot, runway 21 left, taxi via Charlie, cross runway 30.
Taxi ground, Skyline 119 Charlie, Romeo,
So based off his call, our suspected taxi is going to be to 21 left via Charlie, cross runway 30 Charlie.
But then they gave us a clearance that was a little different.
Okay.
So they gave us 21 right, and you had a little bit different of a clearance.
Prescott ground, Skok 239er Kilo, south ramp, northern departure with Delta, please.
239 Kilo, Prescott ground, runway 21 right, taxi via Charlie, Juliet Alpha, cross runway 30.
Taxi 21 right via Charlie, Juliet Alpha, cross runway 30 Charlie, 239er Kilo. Hey.
But that was good that even though you had anticipated a clearance, you didn't follow what the other airplane did. You were able to adapt. So that was really good. We started taxiing. How did you feel taxiing went?
There was a little bit of time where I picked up some speed, but I feel like I maintained centerline. There was a point on taxiway Alpha where I wasn't quite sure if the Embry-Riddle plane had gone over, or I would have might have clipped them or something, so I kind of went off to the side.
I thought your taxiing was good. You were aware of when we crossed the runway, you were clearing. The one thing that I like, again, not required, but just me personally, that I like is every time we approach an intersection, you say clear left, clear center, clear right. I also like to say when we come up to a runway, okay, we're approaching runway 30, we have our clearance to cross, because that's just a mental reminder, at least to me. I'm approaching the runway. I'm going to go past a hold short line. I have been cleared to cross that. I did notice you were kind of dancing on the pedals a little bit, and I kind of said, hey, just kind of relax on them a little bit. Just give a little bit of input, see what the airplane does, and then correct. Because remember, there's that little delay in the linkages. So
take it a little easier on the pedals. So here, my pedals real quick. Put an input in and then just see how the airplane reacts. Instead of making quick inputs, just put a little bit in and then wait and see how the airplane reacts. Does that make sense?
nothing too bad. You did stay on centerline pretty well. Not really much of an issue there. Now, there was one thing. Do you remember what the critical phases of flight are?
Takeoff, landing, and taxi?
What do you think should be happening during that time?
Just silent listening in, just making sure that you're fully aware of everything that's going on.
Correct. Yeah, you're right about that. Now, were we doing that when we were taxiing initially? How about when I was asking you about the airplanes over on the north ramp?
What do you think about these airplanes over on the north ramp? I haven't seen what that one is before. This one right over here with the cover on it. I don't know why people park their trucks over here. That Dodge is kind of in the way. Yeah, but this plane over here, I haven't seen this one before. That's a Mooney. Have you ever seen anyone flying that one?
What I was trying to get you to do was tell me to be quiet.
Oh.
I was trying to get you to tell me to be quiet and say, this is a critical phase of flight. We need to avoid distractions. Any questions, just wait until we get up into the air because we need a sterile cockpit right now. Because you're going to have DPEs going to do something like that as well. They want you to be able to, as pilot in command, tell your passengers no, tell them to be quiet, and tell them to stop talking. So I know you can do it. It's just when you're being tested or on a practical test, it's just be as strict as you can. That's something that in a passenger brief you could do as well. You say, hey, we're going to have a sterile cockpit. Let me get us out of the airport here. Once we get out of the airspace, I'll tell you, hey, we are good to converse now, or any questions you have about something that's going on. Because during the critical phases of flight, it's really important that we focus only on the safety of flight and getting out of there, because there's all those planes and a lot of student pilots. Not everybody manages to really maintain their level of safety. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, cool. So then we went and we did our run up. How'd you think the run up went?
Run up went pretty well. You tripped me up. I believe it was the LMUs.
LRUs.
LRUs. Yeah. You tripped me up. You're like, what are you really looking for here? And I was like, I was just trying to do the enunciator's test. And
do you think you should check your LRUs? Is that what you're trying to do?
Trying to do the
enunciator. So with your LRUs, can you see all of them on this screen?
I know you're going to scroll down.
Yep. So why don't you do that? Make sure. What are we looking for?
Oh, making sure nothing has a big red X on it.
That's right.
I did get a little confused on the mag drop or the mag test. Sometimes I think that I'm at 1800 RPMs, and then right before I go to drop the mag, it goes down 30 RPM, and I'm like, oh shoot, what was really the mag drop there? Other than that, I was pretty happy with the run up.
The mag check was good. I like to hear the call out for it. So when you check the mags, go to 1800 or around there. If you're 1810 or 1790, it's like you don't need to spend all day trying to get it right to 1800 if it's not one to do that. Right around 1800, check one mag, I count to 5, take it back to both, and you've noted the drop. And then you let it stabilize, reset it if need be, which is what you were doing, and then check the other mag. Yeah, the run-up, you followed the checklist, no issues with that. The one thing was kind of your autopilot check. You put it in heading mode and just kind of turned it on and kind of pushed on it.
Yeah.
Okay, everything's happy there. Autopilot. Going to turn.
Cutter 29, cross runway 30, Echo 3.
Go to heading.
Cutter 29, cross runway 30, Echo 3.
Fight it.
We weren't going to use the autopilot, but if you're going to check it, you want to check that it follows the heading in both directions, as well as it will come towards you and go away. Control wheel steering, you check that a little more than just checking that it follows the heading one direction. Not a big deal. If you plan to hand fly the whole time, then just from an evaluation perspective, it just doesn't look like you're that confident in what you're doing. Does that make sense?
I understand.
Yeah. Run up was good. We went up to the hold short line. Your radio call was good.
Prescott Tower, Skyhawk 239er kilo, holding short 2 and right, Alpha 5 ready.
239er kilo, Prescott Tower, fly straight out, runway 2 and right, short and clear for takeoff.
2 and right, clear for takeoff, fly straight out, 239 kilo.
And then I give you a normal takeoff. And how do you think the normal takeoff went?
The normal takeoff went pretty good. As I was going, I had checked all my engine indications were in the green. I was at 2330 RPM, making sure that my airspeed was alive. But once we got up to around 52 is when I started the drawback. Usually I do it a little bit earlier, just to see when, let the plane fly when it wants to fly. And it was a little nerve-wracking getting up to the hold short line, but once I took off, it kind of alleviated the stress. Other than that, I'm not too upset about my takeoff.
Yeah, your takeoff was really good. You were trying to maintain VY. Your lowest speed I saw was 68. You seem to be bouncing between 68 and 72. I had that the highest airspeed you got up to was 80. But again, it was a little bumpy up there, and I noticed that you were correcting. You were trying to stay, seemed like around 72 to about 76, which is right in there for VY. So that was a good takeoff. I give you that one. We climbed up there, and then we departed. We got out of the airspace, and we went to do slow flight. How you think that went?
I bet you could tell we kind of had the communications error as to of what you wanted me to do. I thought you were trying to tell me that, like, get straight and level, and when I say ready, then we'll go into slow flight. We had talked about it in the plane, so now I understand.
Okay, so go ahead and configure, and then tell me when you're ready.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Configure for slow flight, and then tell me when you're ready, and then I'll tell you what I want you to do. So what are you doing right now? What are you trying to do?
Runway 2 and right, short,
I'm just trying to get us into straight level flight.
So right now, instead of straight level, I've asked for a slow flight.
Traffic level 98, 9,500.
I guess I'm not fully understanding what you're asking of me. You want me to go into slow flight, and then once I am in slow flight, ask for further instruction.
So what I want you to do is I want you to set up so you start slowing down, put your flaps in, get it all configured, and so you're ready. And when you're ready, you have to do some climbs and descents and turns in slow flight, and I'm going to tell you what I want you to do once you're ready.
Okay.
So when I say configure for slow flight, go ahead and start slowing us down, get our flaps in, get everything ready so we can do slow flight. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes
because
sense.
like you have certain standards that you have to meet. And like if you're configuring and you drop below the standard while you're configuring or you're too fast, I want you to be able to get all set up and settled down and be ready. So when you say you're ready, now I'm evaluating you on that maneuver. Does that make sense?
Yes, I understand.
Okay.
Total 71.
So go ahead and configure for slow flight.
Now I know.
Go ahead,
Thank you.
71.
The slow flight itself was a little aggravating, to say the least.
Right.
We were hitting a lot of downdrafts at full power. We were still losing like 200 to 500 feet per minute.
Right.
Trying to keep a good speed going, but at the same time, we're just dropping.
Yeah, we're getting some downdrafts right now.
Yeah.
Once we had that discussion and what to expect from the clouds, and we turned in, then we were gaining 1,800 feet per minute. It turned out to be a lot better.
Head out underneath those clouds over there and climb us back up 7,500. We can fly underneath these clouds and hopefully we can get some updrafts that'll help us with our altitude. Because right now we're 14 degrees above standard, 13 degrees outside Celsius at, what are we at, 7,600 feet? So it's hot. We got 3 people in this airplane. We're heavy, so we're looking at high density altitude. So anything we can do to try and help with this can help us to maintain altitude is going to help with slow flight, because I can't really evaluate you if we're constantly descending. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I should have communicated this better on the ground, but the way that I've always done it and the way that the DPEs have done it with me was they would say, go ahead and configure for slow flight. Let me know when you're ready. That's when you start slowing down. You put your flaps in, you get your nose up, you get your power set. And then once you're ready, you say, okay, I'm set. And so then your airspeed's not moving all over, because if your airspeed's moving all over and you say, I'm ready, and your airspeed drops like 8 knots down into the 40s or down close to 39 and you get the stall warning horn, you just busted. So if you're given that chance to kind of stabilize and get ready for that slow flight, and then if your airspeed, especially in the G1000 is pretty sensitive, it'll move around a little bit. If you get all set and you say, okay, I'm ready, now you're ready for what the evaluator is going to tell you. So from there, then you're really being evaluated on your ability to conduct slow flight. So if we have a turn and a climb, or we have a turn and a descent. I know we did that today. We were having trouble holding altitude. Once we got under the clouds, it helped us a little bit, but then we were kind of out from under them. So slow flight really was hard to evaluate today, but from what I saw, I thought you did pretty well. But that does bring us to the next point, which was you have to be able to identify what kind of clouds are around you. So that's what I was looking at. I'm looking out there and I see these cumulus clouds. What's a cumulus cloud?
It's just a rain cloud.
So a cumulus cloud kind of looks like it's one of the puffy ones.
Yeah.
And usually you have the cloud there in the middle. And what do you have underneath the cloud?
Updrafts.
Right. The saturated air comes up, hits the dew point,
And then it cools down.
and then it cools and it dumps the moisture, which is how we get these clouds. And as the air continues to rise, then what happens?
It cools down and then it falls.
Underneath the cloud, what do you have?
Updrafts.
And on the outside of the cloud, what do you have?
Downdrafts.
This is how you get turbulent air, right? Does this make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
So you see out there, we're getting a bunch of downdrafts, right? We're having trouble maintaining altitude. So part of something that's important to understand is how weather works, right? So we have these clouds over here. What kind of clouds are these?
Those are nimbostratus cumulus.
Are you sure?
Maybe.
I guarantee you, if you go up on your Checkride and you say, and I say, what kind of clouds are these? And you're guessing, your Checkride's over right then and there.
Yeah.
So what kind of clouds are these? Final answer.
Nimbostratus.
These are cumulus clouds.
Cumulus clouds.
Okay. So
You do need to do some studying on your cloud types.
Mhm.
And you said that you're good with the ground, which you were able to tell me some of the properties in the airplane. But when you're flying around, especially doing a cross country, like I just came back from Florida, you have to be able to look out and look at the clouds around you and evaluate what's going on and what you can expect going certain directions. So we moved on to a power off stall. So tell me about your power off stall. What'd you think?
The setup for it was pretty good. I talked through it very well, I believe. I set up the descent, pitching for the right speeds, putting flaps in when they were supposed to be put in. Talk through, you round out, because the power off stall is, you go for a go around, but you don't put in power on landing.
Your power off stall was pretty good. You had the right idea behind it, which is it's simulating you're coming into land and then you level off too high, basically. Instead of initiating a go-around, like you said, you basically stall it. If you stall it 50, 75 feet above the runway and you just come down and smack the runway, you're going to hurt yourself, you're going to damage the plane. So how do we recover from that? And you had, for the most part, the right setup for it. I tend to have students do it a little differently. I'll have you just do straight and level flight, pull your power back to 1500 or so, below 110, flaps 10, wide arc, flaps 20, wide arc, flaps 30, sometimes about that quick, depending on how quickly the airplane's slowing down. Then once we hit our VREF speed, which is about 65, we'll drop the nose down, count 1001, 1002, 1003, then we level off, pull the power to idle. Now we've simulated that we've come in, we've leveled off, we're at power idle. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add just a little bit of back pressure just to keep the nose level, which you were doing that. I noticed that that was pretty good. Again, I like to have the students call out the horn, buffet, and stall. I don't think you called that out, but I heard the horn, I felt the buffet, and then if you kind of death grip the yoke a little bit, it really makes the brake harder to feel. And I know in the plane I'd asked you, did you take it, because I told you to take it to a full brake, and you said that it was kind of a full brake. It was pretty close. Your recovery was good. You immediately added full power, and then went flaps 20, I believe. The one thing that I did notice was we got way out of coordination. Like, I don't know what was going on with the rudder, if you smacked the pedal or something, but just remember, maintain coordination, but then, you got the airspeed up and started taking the flaps out as we gained our airspeed, and then we climbed back up. So overall, that was pretty good. So then we did the power on stall, and I asked you about the power on stall, what are our concerns? And basically the biggest thing is a spin.
So with a power on stall, it's very, very important you maintain that coordination, because if we don't, what can happen?
Spin.
Yeah, exactly.
Off the top of your head, do you know why we could get into a spin?
Because we're just uncoordinated.
If we were uncoordinated, yeah. So we're at a high power setting, low angle, or a really high angle of attack, and a low airspeed. And so all those things are going to cause the airplane to want to do what?
Like yaw.
Yeah, that's your left turning tendencies, right? You did really well. You kept it coordinated with that. And I asked you, what are we simulating? And you said pulling up the nose too much on takeoff. Yeah, over rotation. That's exactly what we're practicing recovering from.
Get down. Stay coordinated.
Horn,
Brake.
buffet, and there's the brake. Cool.
Beauty.
Good. All right, cool.
So we did that while we were on our way to try slow flight again. I think we kind of beat slow flight into the ground. We did the best we could with what we had. I think you have the idea behind it. Everything was just not cooperating with us. So from there, I asked you if you want to do ground ref or if you wanted to go back and do some landings, because we were running out of time. So we headed back to Prescott. Let's talk about our engine failure.
Are we gonna do full stop taxi backs once we get there?
Actually, I got a different idea. Why don't we do something else? Let's do an engine failure.
Oh,
So now what?
all right.
I was pretty ready for an engine failure, and then you gave me an engine fire.
All right. So what do we do?
All right, we're pitching for airspeed. Our best glide is 68 knots, so we're gonna make sure that we're there.
Okay.
Then we're gonna pick our best spot to land.
I think I see smoke coming out of the cowling.
Yeah.
There's smoke coming out of the cowling now.
So then we want to do an engine fire.
Okay. Now there's flames coming out of the engine.
All right, so we want to do our fuel shut off. Make sure.
Now there's flames everywhere around here.
I wasn't as ready for that.
Okay.
And you're like, you want to yellow line it, and I wasn't expecting that either. You pushed the yoke forward, and we were pretty steep.
So when we have an engine fire, we want an emergency descent. An emergency descent is going to put us in the yellow arc. So when I say emergency, I mean yellow arc like this. Okay, cool. Flames are out. Now what?
I kind of freaked out a little bit.
When you get an engine failure, what I want to do is see how your train of thought was, and you kind of hesitated a little bit. Like when you get engine failure, it just needs to be, okay, this is what we're doing, because sometimes we're not at altitude. We had an engine failure at 300 feet after takeoff. We don't have time to be like, the engine starts sputtering. It's not like, okay, what are we going to do? Let's find the checklist. No, we need to know airspeed, and then we need to find best place to land right ahead of us. I kind of helped you along with that. What's the first thing we do? Airspeed, best glide, and then best place to land. When I ask you, where are we going? You don't have to explain it to me. You just have to say there's an open field right there. We're landing right there. And then I want to see you moving on. You were there, but maybe a touch more aggressively. Just make those pilot and command decisions. There's going to be a day I won't be in the plane with you, and you might have an emergency, and I want you to be able to demonstrate to me that you can say, this is it, this is what we're doing right now. And then to make things more fun, I like to give the engine fire. I'll start it out with, hey, I see some smoke coming out of the cowling. So we just had an engine failure. So something's wrong with our engine. And now I'm starting to see fire coming out of the cowling, and I've seen smoke. Where there's smoke, there's fire, right? And I want you to kind of transition to, okay, what are we going to do now? I'm increasing the intensity, trying to get you to do an emergency descent. That's what I was looking at from, What were you thinking?
And so I was just getting into the mindset for engine failure, and then you gave me the smoke, and I'm like, okay, so then we have an engine fire. I was trying to get, I guess, my brain to convert from the engine failure to the engine fire. It just wasn't correlating. I still wanted to do like full mixture, but I really needed to take it out. I needed to turn my fuel shutoff off. I was going to turn on my fuel pump. Like I needed to cut off fuel instead of adding more to it and trying to restart.
With an engine fire, what we want to do is blow that fire out as soon as possible. Turn off all the fuel. You've got to get it into the yellow arc, trying to blow that fire out. Now, we were having problems with, I think it was density altitude, like we weren't climbing, but it wasn't bumpy. So I felt comfortable pushing it into the yellow arc. But when I want an emergency descent, I want an actual emergency descent. When I'm evaluating you to send you for a check ride, I want to make sure that you're comfortable actually pushing it over. Like there's a lot of people I know that don't go past 100 knots very often. And when they do, they're not comfortable with it. But you've got to know that there's a fire. If you have an emergency, it's nose it over and get it into the yellow arc, blow that fire out. So after we transitioned back from an engine fire to a glide, how did you feel that went?
Once we went from the descent back to just regular gliding, I wanted to go straight back to the checklist instead of reestablishing, because we were at like 140 knots. And so we needed to reestablish the 68 knots. And so I hadn't quite picked that up. It took me a second to realize I needed to do that. And then I needed to rediscover a new best place to land.
All right, fire's out. So we're going to want to try and restart and back up with our checklist.
Nope. What do we go back to?
We want to go to our best glide and
There you go. So back to best glide, then what?
best landing.
Okay.
Which is...
Are we at best glide?
No, we are not.
Okay. Where's our best landing at?
The wind's coming from that way, so we want to land on the upwind. I think if we turn left and then this... Oh, sorry. This whole...
You have to explain it to me. Just say we're going there.
We're going here, and
Okay.
we're going to land on the upwind going on that field.
I went a little bit too far into explaining it. Like if it was an actual emergency, I shouldn't have been like, oh yeah, and then I'm gonna do like if it's there, then do it, you know.
Yeah.
But after that, I was still a little bit in the engine fire or engine failure mindset, and we had that discussion as to like why are you
turning the fuel back on?
Yeah,
Are we trying to start the fire again?
Yeah, why are we doing that?
And we're going to our checklist. Memory list items, make sure we're on both. Fuel shut off, mixture full in, our fuel pump, and cycler mags.
Why would we turn our fuel pump on when we had an engine fire? Do we want to start that again?
Ooh, no, we don't.
Once I finally got engine failure just out of my mind, I was able to do that better.
So we wouldn't want to. We would want
Right.
to make sure that everything's off. So you want to pull your mixture, you want to pull your fuel shut off, make sure all of it's out because we don't want to start the fire again. Because
Right.
now we're at a low altitude and we can't do our emergency descent because we've already emergency descented. We've gone through our checklist, then we're going to want to talk to ATC.
Just remember, focus on the task at hand, which you need to do, which throughout the entire flight, you flew the airplane first. I could tell. You're a good pilot. You're competent. I have no qualms about that. We just need to fine tune you a little bit on some of these things and just make sure your mind's in the right place. But like I said, that wasn't too bad. So then we started heading back to Prescott because I asked you if you want to do ground ref or if you wanted to do landings. You said landings. And I was like, hey, we're like 30 miles out. Let's do steep turn. That's cool. How do you think your steep turn went?
I think my steep turn went beautifully.
Oh, your steep turn was a chef's kiss.
It was so beautiful.
It was. I told you we're going to use 7,500 at 90 knots. I had you your highest airspeed at 92, your lowest at 87. So I told you 7,500 to start it, but you started it at 7,460. And I think you were right above 7,500, like maybe 7,520. You held your bank really well, did really well with that. Your rollout was really good as well. You rolled in at, I think it was 122 on your heading, and then you rolled out at 123.
That's great.
That's really good. Yeah, so that was exceptional. That was well within standards.
Pulling our power. And holy smokes, there we go.
Yeah, you nailed that one. That was really, really good. All right, cool. Take us back to Prescott.
All right.
The only thing that I was upset about, and I realized it after I had started the steep turn, was I forgot to bug my heading. I started and I was like, okay, I know my point though, and so I just used my point instead of...
This is based on your reference point outside. So the fact that you used the outside reference even and didn't bug your heading. Yes, we bug our heading as kind of like a backup, but the fact that you were using your outside reference makes it even better because a lot of people will just do it based off the heading indicator or the HSI or whatever, especially in the G1000. You know, they don't, they're just looking outside for whatever. And then they say, okay, my point's coming around. And it's like then they start their rollout rather than looking outside and going, okay, now I'm going to start rolling out. So I roll out right on it. So then we went back to Prescott. Straight level's pretty good. No real issues. I would have liked to see a descent a little bit earlier because we were like 75, which is actually the top of the airspace as we were coming back. And he gave us a right base to 2-1 right. I just kind of asked you, how are you going to enter this? And
So what are you going to do?
Basically, once I get to the airspace, I'm going to hook a left and make a right base for 2 and right.
So this first landing, give me a normal landing with a slip.
yeah, we came in. I told you give me a slip to a normal landing. How did you think that approach went?
It was backing up just a little bit. I don't know, somewhere in my head, you were telling me as we were coming in that we were going to do a slip to a landing. And so I was like, okay, so I don't know how much he wants me to descend.
We want to descend a little bit faster than this. Like we're 1,000 feet above pattern altitude, and we're on that 5-mile final. Little high is okay, but we are really high. We can tell just by looking at the airport. Yeah.
You said level out here, and then once we can't see point, we'll slip, is when I realized we actually needed to slip. My initial slip when we were high to get down to pattern altitude was correct.
Yeah.
I put the aileron into the wind and left rudder. But then my slip to land was the wrong way. I put the aileron away from the wind and put my right rudder.
Really what I wanted you to do was I was going to have you come in and I was going to have you slip. I was going to bring you in high, because for a slip, normally you come in about 400 feet above the ground and then you slip down either to land or get back on the glide slope. So what I was trying to get you to do was I wanted you to slip down to the glide slope. And even though the tower was calling that the wind was calm, you were able to use your resources, off the G1000, say there was a little bit of a right crosswind, so that's the way we point the nose. And that's correct, and that's really good. So then you entered your slip, you got back on glide slope, and so I was thinking, all right, cool. Well, that was pretty good. I was going to give you something to try and make you do a go around, just to see, because a lot of times students have trouble with slip. So I have them do a slip into a landing, usually come in high, come in slow, come in whatever, and then they'll get in, then it'll be a go around. You lost some airspeed. I think I had you down to about 58 on that. So just be really careful to watch your airspeed when you're coming in to land, when you're slipping. So you came in, and then once you came out of the slip, I'm like, all right, cool. He's right here on glide slope. Everything looks good. You added power.
For some reason, my body was telling me, like, I don't know, just the feeling of just descent. Like I could just feel that we were descending, and I should have used my instruments to back up what I was feeling, but I didn't, and I just added power, and I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, so what you were feeling is your body was catching up, because in the slip, that's what we were doing, is we're dumping altitude. So we have not excessive rate of descent, but we're faster than we're normally descending. And then when we come out of that, when we snap back into straight, then we stop our descent. So I think you got a little bit of an illusion right there. But then you added the power, and we started to go, like we leveled off, and I was like, what's going on with, and then I felt you try to pull you're like, okay, we're over the threshold, I'm pulling my power. So right there, the fact you're coming over the end of the runway, we're still super high. I saw 2 whites as we came over, and you added the power. I would have liked to see you just be like, you know what, I jacked up this landing, I'm going to do a go around. And so then you go and just do a go around. But then I think I see a coyote on the runway.
Yeah.
Is that a coyote on the runway?
Where?
I see a coyote on the runway.
I do not. Go around.
But the question is, does it matter?
No, it doesn't.
Like you said, for traffic, don't assume I see something. Well, if I, as your passenger, am saying, hey, I see something on the runway, I think there's a coyote. Are you going to verify that, especially when we're come that close to the runway? Or would it be better to just initiate a go around and then look on downwind, and if there was actually a coyote, maybe call a tower? I could tell you were kind of getting fatigued at this point. You said you had a couple landings in you.
How you feeling?
I'm a little tired.
71, probably 6.
You want to land on this one, or you want to end the flight, or you want to keep going?
I got a couple landings in me.
Okay.
Eventually, I gave you a hint to go around. You did. You initiated your go around. I thought that was pretty good. Your go around was fine. Then we flew the pattern. It was the first approach where you missed the radio call, right?
Yeah, we were talking about doing the slip,
Yeah.
and I forgot the radio call, and
Yeah.
you had picked that.
I heard him say our tail number, and I noticed that we hadn't got the clearance to land yet. And you were talking about the slip, and so I was waiting for you to catch that. And I waited, and you didn't.
According to this little...
So 39 Kilo number 2, that says short approach, only 2 right, short and clear to land.
So, we want... Right aileron. Number 2, clear to land, November 239 Kilo.
So 239, okay, just verify runway 2 and right for me. Runway 2 and right, short and clear to land.
2 and right, clear to land, November 239 Kilo.
And so I'm sure the tower was just about to call us. So then I made the radio call, and even I screwed it up because I forgot to give the runway number. Between watching you, doing everything that I have to do, I messed it up too. So everybody makes mistakes. No big deal. Slipped to land, went around, came in on the second one. Really good setup, really good stabilized approach. We came into land. Tell me about the landing.
I was pretty tired. We were high. We floated a little bit. I didn't pull out power directly over the threshold. I waited until it wasn't for any reason. I was like, oh, shoot. I didn't pull out the power.
Short final, flaps going full. Gonna have to touch power. I feel sinking just a little bit.
Nope. Take the power out.
No.
No, because we leveled off. Now we're not sinking anymore. Pull your power. Pull your power.
I wasn't really talking myself through the landing. I wasn't helping myself, and so we ended up being high. The touchdown was pretty nice. The getting to the touchdown wasn't so great.
All right, so now we're back on glide slope. Nice and easy.
Keep
us coming to our aiming point. Come straight down to our aiming point. Come straight to our aiming point. Straight to our aiming point. Level off. Power idle. She's sinking. Start to flare. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. She stopped flaring right there. Easy, easy, easy. Boom. Back on the runway.
Beauty.
All right, cool. Nice and easy on the brakes. We can take the next exit.
I kind of helped you out with that one. So, because I noticed that you wanted to level off kind of high. And so I was kind of telling you, keep going to your aiming point, which you were using the numbers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was kind of putting my thumb on the yoke saying, fly to the numbers, fly to your aiming point, and then level off. And then you pulled your power to idle, and then here's the sync, and then start the flare. We were off center line a little bit, but we were on the runway. It was a good set down. We could have brought it to the right a little bit, but I was just kind of helping you get it back on the ground since, like I said, I could tell you were tired. So, and just always know that anytime you're tired during your check ride, you can discontinue at any time. Like if you feel overwhelmed, whether you've passed or whether you haven't, if you get to that point, just know that you can just be like, sir, ma'am, whoever's doing your check ride, be like, I'm getting tired and I want to discontinue this check ride right now. And I want to go back and we can pick it up later. And the DPE can only say, okay, sounds good. Let's do that. They cannot say, we have to continue this check ride. Just be aware of that. You are in control of your check ride. Don't ever feel like the DPE is and that they're forcing you to do something that you don't want to. I know a lot of students, myself included, who before check rides, you're just up the night before cramming, studying, stressing, and you're all worried about it. You don't sleep well. If you don't sleep well or you got things going on, just know that you can cancel your check ride and reschedule it. And DPEs need to, and instructors and everybody has to understand that things happen. So just understand if you're getting tired, just be like, hey, I just want to discontinue. And you're not going to be faulted for that.
Okay.
So we did the landing. We taxied back. We shut down. How did you think the shutdown went?
Yeah, I think taxiing back went well. There was a garbage truck on the ramp, and so I was kind of looking out for him.
Yeah, I noticed that.
He ended up just disappearing, so he wasn't even a factor. Yeah, I think my shutdown went very well.
Did you use the checklist?
I did not use my checklist.
I caught that. And so
yes.
That's, I would definitely say, always use the checklist on shutdown because what did you forget to turn off?
The master.
Okay.
What I typically do is turn off the airplane and then grab the checklist and just make sure that my shutdown is verified and all true. And
I noticed a lot of students that do that as well, that they do and verify. I like for the shutdown, I like to just go line by line. So, but otherwise, so you've you've identified a couple things to work on. You know what you do well. Go from there. So I appreciate you flying today.
Yeah.
It was fun.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. If you'd like to prepare for your check ride, we have a maneuvers course which will walk you through the maneuvers that you'll need to pass your check ride, as well as we have a check ride course. Be sure to check us out at pilotinstitute.com.